podcast listener. This is What Scares Us, a podcast where four friends share the movies that make us hang upside down in horror. Brought to you by the Ann Arbor District Library. I'm Allison.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Christopher.
And I'm Matt.
Today we're discussing the 2019 Indonesian horror film written and directed by Joko Anwar, one of my personal favorite horror directors. I watched this for the first time in July 2022, and then quickly followed it with The Queen of Black Magic, Satan's Slaves, and the sequel, Satan's Slaves Communion, one of my favorite movies of all time.
All time?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm obsessed with this movie. I've seen it so many times, and it's one of the very few movies that actually, got me, and I had, a nightmare after. Yeah. This year, I watched Joko Anwar's Nightmares and Daydreams on Netflix and was very pleasantly surprised. A couple fun facts to get us started. Joko Anwar had a very turbulent childhood, which became his inspiration for his movie making. All of his movies almost always feature absent parents, either physically or emotionally. This was the official submission of Indonesia for the Best International Feature Film category for the 93rd Academy Awards in 2021. Impetigore was in development for almost a decade. It was first announced in 2011 before being shelved, and then it was picked up again in 2018 and went into production in March of 2019 and premiered in October of 2019. So that is a pretty quick turnaround. And eagle-eyed viewers might recognize the actress Christine Hakim. She's a beloved actor who's been in the business since 1973. She was also in Eat, Pray, Love, and she's in the second episode of The Last of Us. She plays the scientist in the cold open.
Yeah.
Is that the grandma?
Did you recognize her?
I was like, I know her. I know her from a few things, but that's exactly what it was.
Is that the grandma character or the older woman?
She's a scientist, and she's
in the movie. In this movie?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The grandma. Yep.
Yeah.
And this fun fact is just for Amanda and Christopher, but this is a picture of her with David Lynch and Michelle Yeoh and Sharon Stone.
Why isn't this for me?
Are you a David Lynch fan?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No,
They're both
It was mostly funny.
This is not for Matt. Matt, you need to turn
Matt
around.
has to leave.
I love it.
Yeah.
Anytime we can mention, I feel like talking about David Lynch is my version of talking about Alien.
That's fair.
What did you guys think of this movie?
Well, I had never heard of this movie. I have heard of Joko Anwar only because Allison had mentioned it previously in our conversations, probably on here or off the podcast. I never heard of it. A horror folklore as a subgenre is not my favorite. I have a really hard time with it. I'll begin things and just end them. So this movie was all right. It was fine. And that's all I'm going to say at this point. But yeah, I watched it once. I'm not going to watch it again. But it was a fine movie. I mean, I have thoughts that we'll dive into. But yeah, that was where I am.
All I can think of is, ow, my eyes.
What?
Referring to the cover of the disc, where the character has little heads coming out where her eyes should be.
It's cool because it's like the visual of the girl's head upside down with her hair dripping down.
Right.
Yeah.
I really liked a bunch of aspects of it. It was great to see this kind of horror done outside the U.S. or outside a country that I'm familiar with. We'll talk about The Ghost, but I thought it was interesting that this, to me, seems like a very Western-style ghost story in some ways, but I'm sure we'll dig into that.
Yeah, I definitely had not heard of this prior to talking to you about it, Allison. And yeah, I think I kind of feel the same way that Amanda does. This is, without getting too far into it, this is not typically my kind of horror movie. Mm-hmm. There were some pleasant surprises to it, and then there were some things that I had issues with. But we'll get into all that. All told, though, I watched the whole thing, so that's
nice.
good. And I didn't fall asleep once.
Yeah.
Guess you did.
All right. Well, we are about to get into spoiler territory, so please go watch Impetigore. We have it here at the library to check out, and then come join us again.
I've got an opening salvo question.
Oh.
what does Impetigore mean? That's
Oh.
not the initial Indonesian title, right?
Right.
Is it made up for?
Yes. So it's a made up word, and it's a combination of impetigo, which is some sort of bacterial infection of the skin that's more common in
Impetigo?
kids. Impetigo? Is that how you say that?
I think
Yeah,
so,
that's
right?
how you say
Okay. Impetigo and gore. The word gore.
Oh,
So is it Impetigore?
The director always says Impetigore.
Huh.
That's how I would want to say it too.
Yeah.
He says Impetigore.
Yeah, I did see a couple of like things from Sundance where he was talking. He seems like a really fun and jovial guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a definition. Impetigo is a common and highly contagious skin infection that mainly affects infants and young children. So since it involves the skin and young children, which are a big part of this movie, interesting.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
Right at the beginning, Maya is attacked by a mysterious man with some sort of machete or weapon at her job as a toll booth operator. The man asks if she is Rahayu and says, "We just don't want what your family left behind. Please take it away." And Maya and her best friend Dini open a clothing store but quickly run out of money. And they decide to visit the remote village where Maya was born to see if she has an inheritance to claim.
I really liked the opening. I thought it was so interesting. I liked the dialogue. I liked these characters. It just seemed very real to me, this whole opening thing. And it was scary. You know, you get this sense of isolation, and then that guy's coming back after he goes through the toll booth. I thought this was a fantastic opening.
Totally agreed. I really like the two leads are really good in this, and I hate to say it, it's kind of my favorite part of the movie.
No, me too.
Like,
I think it's this only scary part of the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's not a slam on the rest of the movie, but it's like that is a terrifying setup of being in a booth like that, where it's like, I mean, her only recourse is to shut the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to protect her from the
No.
big blade or whatever. But yeah, I like this opening quite a bit.
Yeah, I agree. The opening was one of the strongest parts of the movie for me. It was so fast paced. The adrenaline was pumping. You had mystery, you had horror. You also had this cute friendship of the two girls talking on the phone, being, bored as being like toll booth operators, which I thought was cool. And they were just talking as they normally were. Like, I had to rewind it a couple times to make sure I wasn't missing any of the subtitles because I wanted to know what was happening. But for me, it also set up like how off the pacing of the rest of the movie was for me. But I did really enjoy the opening. It set everything up in a great way. I was ready to see what was going to happen. Basically, from the very opening beat until the opening credits, I was just like, yep, let's see what's going on. I want to know what the story is, who is Sky, what got taken away from them. So really cool opening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's unique. I think it's a really good cold open. I do think it's the only really scary part of the movie. Like, this doesn't really feel... The movie is not scary to me. And I think it's weird. Like, I haven't really seen something like this before. And then her, like, finding that paper inside of her leg.
That was...
Like, what is this?
I'm like, okay, she just took a fortune out of her leg? What? I was...
And that guy knew exactly where to cut. It's like,
Yeah.
what is this?
Yeah.
Not a lot of blood either.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah,
but it was scary having her be trapped in there. Also, the door was stuck. And of course, that's always great if you can't get out like the one way you're supposed to get out.
Well, especially because she just locked it. So she just, like, screwed herself
Yeah.
over accidentally.
Yeah, and her friends like, find a weapon, find anything.
I also really like when that guy's blade hits the ground right next to her head. It's like it like slows down a little bit, and there's like a beat where she's just staring at it. I think it's cool. And then the other part I like about the opening is there's like two sort of like fake outs almost when Maya's looking for her friend, and also when they get on the bus and that guy is staring at her from the front of the bus. I don't
Yeah.
know. I just like that there's like little... I'm not a jump scare kind of person, so I like that they're like little fake outs.
Yeah.
Nothing actually
And two,
happens.
The contrast is pretty dark at the beginning. And initially, when he was in the car outside of her toll booth, it looked like his eyes were glowing. There was like a glint or reflection off of his eyes that I'm like, for me, I'm like, oh, is he like a zombie or something? And then later on the bus too, so their eyes, and then later on, one of the lead girls, when they were in the woods and when they get to the village, and it's just a reflection on their eyes, and I'm sure maybe it wasn't intentional, but it just gave me that supernatural element that didn't exist really in this movie. This is folklore, not like, supernatural. Yeah. But I thought that was neat.
Yeah.
The music during the credits kind of reminded me a little bit of Suspiria, specifically like the ooh voices and shit that are happening, and they reuse it a few times. I thought that was kind of cool that they had that. I'm not sure if that was a specific nod to Goblin or something, but it reminded me of it quite a bit.
Last time I watched Suspiria, I walked around my house for like 8 days going,
witch.
Yeah. Maya and Dini take a 6-hour bus ride, followed by a very expensive horse and buggy ride to Ki Saptari's house in the village. But he's not home, so they go to Maya's childhood home to look around. They happen upon Maya's parents' grave site, and that night Maya witnesses a baby being born in the village, but for some reason it's immediately drowned. They watch the baby's funeral the next day, where they meet Ki Saptari himself.
I forgot a line that was from the previous section.
Yeah.
When they're in like the back area of the store,
the bathroom.
Like, in the bathroom, one of them says, and I typed this up. Besides, if I don't read, I'll just go to the toilet all the time.
Oh, she says it on the bus.
On the bus.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's right. It was on the bus. What the fuck does that mean?
I have no idea. She's so funny.
She is funny.
She's a good sidekick I like the dynamic of the two of them very much, because they're perfect besties, because they're different, but they're so similar. Mm-hmm. And you can just tell that those are each other's, they're each other's person.
Yep.
I really like that.
I wrote down 2 quotes between the two of them from this section. Dini says, "Nobody's ever heard of it," meaning the village. And Maya says, "We've only asked one person." That's so funny.
But I thought that was kind of a spooky part. They show up after this long, long bus ride, trying to get to this village that no one really even knows where it is. And that kind of freaked me out. I felt like this was like a Dracula movie. Mm-hmm. They show up some remote place. No one knows what's going on.
And if they do, they won't take you.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You immediately know that something is being hidden or not told. If there's something menacing that they should be afraid of, and why. There's a reason this is a secluded village. Mm-hmm. I did like the scene on the bus where there's that gentleman sitting behind her. So when Maya and him have a conversation, she finds out that he speaks Havanese, and he's able to translate what the little piece of paper that was pulled from her leg means. That kind of sets up the next part of knowing that the carrier of that piece of paper won't be bothered by evil spirits. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was an important setup for like later. Again, they're just dropping it in your lap. Mm-hmm. Like the friend is conveniently in the bathroom, and then she conveniently she finds out that he speaks Havanese when they're having a discussion about the Russian language. I thought of you, Christopher. But it was a good setup. I feel like we needed that piece, so the piece could be the piece of paper could be translated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like to ward off evil spirits, but it was created by someone evil.
By an evil person, yeah.
I like that little like twist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, if they're dropping something in your lap, you're like, okay, we got some more information. Where is this going to take us? It's taking us to the village. Now what?
Mm-hmm. And we also see those 3 girls outside the bus twice, which is like a blink and you miss it sort of thing.
Yep. And I like how she like pulls down the curtains on the bus window because no one else is seeing it.
You can see the reflection of the guy in the background. Mm-hmm. Cool. I also like Dini says, "Where are you from, Bloodsuckers Village?" When the cabbie says like how much it's going to be, and he says, "No, I'm from Handsome and Rich Village." That's so funny. Yeah.
There's little moments of humor that are like strewn throughout the movie, which is kind of unexpected but endearing and fun. Mm-hmm. Especially like with the best friend doing hers until she meets her demise. I liked her quips.
Yeah.
There's a nice black and white dog in the village once they finally get there, and a white dog at Ki Saptari's house.
I didn't see these dogs.
I didn't see any dogs.
I've seen this movie a lot. I caught them.
Sure.
There's another like fake out scare when Dini is wearing that black robe once they get inside Maya's like childhood house, and she's walking so slowly through the house. Then she just whips it off. She's like, yeah,
Yeah.
I like it. There are no baby photos of Maya in the house when they're looking through all the photos, which makes a lot of sense.
Oh, I didn't get that until just now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, her friend, because she is also, as she's looking through the box of photo, and Dini comes in and she says, there's no photos of me. And then her friend has some answer for it. But like Maya was noticing that she's not in anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't piece that together.
Except for the one that her quote unquote aunt gave her.
Yeah, this movie's like a thinker for me because all of the stuff I think is coolest about it is stuff that like occurred to me like 3 months after I watched it. They go to that graveyard and it's filled with like a bunch of baby graves, like tiny little graves. And I love that there's a sign underneath the regular sign that says courtesy of Ki Danawangso. Like that's so brutal. Like courtesy of this one guy is all of these baby graves.
I didn't realize that's what that's
wild.
yeah.
That's
Got him.
a big burn.
Got him good.
Yeah. But I saw that earlier, but at that point I didn't know the names and I didn't know his relation to her or the larger picture of it.
Same.
I think this movie is very like beautiful. I love seeing like all of the forestry, and I think the village looks really cool. It's like an actual remote village that they just like happened to find. That they had to build roads to get all the film equipment out there. And I just think it's interesting. It does feel like a Western movie, but there's so much like Indonesian culture as well. So it's like this interesting balance of the two of them.
I think it's probably just showing my limited travel and exposure to other cultures, but this village is scary to me.
Yes.
You know, you feel like you are off the map. No one is coming to rescue you. You're off kilter. You don't know what's going on. I don't know. I thought they did a really good job setting this whole village up to be
and there's
scary.
that one little street with the houses or there's like wooden like shack type houses on the sides, and it's pretty quiet. The people look quiet. The building things look dark and dim and dusty, and then it wasn't like a bustling little like area. And then in the aftercut 1 year later, they're on that same street. It is bustling. It looks happier. There is like food being driven. It looks completely different than it did a year ago.
Wow. I didn't really notice that.
Yeah.
I think I did notice how quiet it was after like seeing their shop right at the beginning. Like there's so much going on. There's so many clothes everywhere. Like visually it's like so overstimulating. Then you get to the middle of the woods and then a village with like 40 houses in it. It's like, wow.
Yeah.
This is really different. Also, Dini tries to convince Maya to leave, and she really should have just gone. Sad.
She wants her inheritance. Is that
Got
big
your
house
friend
mine?
killed.
If it is, I want it.
Yeah.
They're also, what are they, 26?
I think they're 20.
They say
Yeah,
they're
that's what
20,
they're-
but I thought
Oh, but
earlier
they're
one of them said they were
25.
20.
20.
Okay, 25.
25 or 26.
They
You're
say
right,
they're
you're
20.
right.
They say they're 20 though when they're lying about their cover.
And I wondered why they made such a point of describing their ages. It's because it all fits in with the story later on when we get the whole history of everything. I'm sharp. I'm on it.
Christopher's on it, you guys.
All right. Two men come to the door to talk to Dini, who falsely identifies herself as Rahayu. Oh my God, why? The men convince her to leave with them, but they ambush her in the forest. They, along with Ki Saptadi and his mother, kill and skin Dini. They say that there are two babies about to be born in the village, and they might be able to save them. Interesting. We also watch a performance of Wayang Kulit, which is Indonesian shadow puppetry, and we watch another baby be born, and it's revealed this time that the baby is born without any skin.
Yeah, I had a hard time because at first we didn't really see the first birth, that we just saw him drowning the baby. And then for the second one, from far away, like its features looked kind of sharp and it looked red. And I was like, oh, is it supposed to be like the baby from Satan or something? Initially from far away when I was looking at it, I was like, what's wrong? What is wrong with the baby? And I'm like, oh yeah, no skin.
this guy took Rosemary's Baby and really ran with the idea.
I feel like the first baby that we see, it was not immediately apparent to me that it's like, oh, that baby doesn't have any skin. I was just like, oh, that baby's got a lot of afterbirth.
It's really red. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of laughed a little bit at the first baby that I saw. I'm not gonna lie. The ankle break though was pretty gross.
That was gnarly. Yeah,
that was pretty gross.
That was a really scary scene.
Yeah.
That little segment right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know as a viewer going into it that she should not be going with them.
No.
Yeah. There are a lot of moments where they do things and go with people and talk to people. And I'm like, why? You should not be going with that man or those 7 men. Don't listen to anybody. And
Don't
then she goes
ever go anywhere
and
with
then
7
she just
men.
goes in the she goes in the woods with those 2 guys. And at one point she's like, listen, I'm not a virgin. If you're going to rape me, just get it over with. Like, you just whatever.
Yeah.
It's not my first time. And I just thought, I'm like, oh my God, this poor woman. I'm like, she's going to die soon. And then with that chase, and then she falls with her ankle, and then they're trying to hit her. That was a really intense scene of her being chased through the woods. Mm-hmm. Again, the pacing is just all over the place with this movie. Mm-hmm. I don't know, which I guess can be appealing to some people who are viewing it.
Yeah. I don't know. Why did they leave that house in place? Why didn't they just burn it down? The village all had such bad feelings about that house. I'm sorry. Now I'm looking at my notes where I was like, he's the elder? He doesn't look that old. Or like there were 2 really big sweeping shots into the bathtub that made me think, oh, there's something evil in the tub.
I thought the same thing.
And I thought, it's in the water. I was doing my guessing.
I was waiting for a hand. I was waiting for like fingers to go over the edge and then back down.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, there's something under the house.
And then I thought that like, oh, these babies, they're born evil. Show me an evil baby. And like, no.
Assumptions.
Yeah, I made a lot of assumptions.
Well, that's what you do when you watch movies.
Yeah.
You're trying to guess. You're trying to like be ahead of the thing so you're prepared for what's next.
Yep.
Especially when it's an environment you don't necessarily recognize and like a culture that is different from ours. Mm-hmm. I think you have to guess the whole time.
Yeah. And I'm dumb, so I made a lot of bad guesses. But I will say it's no fault of this movie necessarily, and I understand why they had to do it. But the CGI blood on her head when she's hanging upside down looks pretty bad.
It does look
there's
bad.
Also just not very much blood in that bucket at the end. It's like we bled her out a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Then we stopped it.
There should be like gallons.
There should be
there.
tons.
Yeah.
She's upside down, but that's
it should come out easily.
That's me quibbling too much with something like that. And then when they first showed the little skin suit, I was like, cool, where's the rest of it? But now
there
I
was
think
only
about
2
it
pieces
for a baby. It's for a baby.
Oh, gross. But yeah, you're right. They only
We
need
don't
a
need
little
all
bit.
of it. Yeah. Now, anyway.
Yeah. Interesting. I did like, so Christopher and I ended up watching this at the same time, separately last night, and he texted me at the same time I was about to text him, and a little while later he says, "There's a puppet master," and I wasn't there yet, but I got real excited. I was like, "Oh my God, there's a puppet master coming up!" And then when we got to the part where like you learn about him being this like shadow puppet person, I was just like, "Oh, this is cool." And then later you learn that the puppets are made of like the skin, which was gross, but that was a fun little spoiler alert, Christopher, because I got excited and I kept waiting to find it.
Oh, yeah. I think the shadow puppetry is really cool. It's like my favorite part of the movie. Is it a gamelan like band? All the live music and then like the shadow puppetry in front. I just think it's sweet.
I loved how they wove the shadow puppetry and just a screen into so many of the scenes. Mm-hmm. There are some brutal butcher scenes where people go crazy. But it just kept showing up in several different places in the movie, and I thought that really made it cool.
Yeah.
It was a really great way to like include more like Indonesian folklore into the storytelling of the movie, which I didn't know anything about, and I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. I watched some interview with Joko Anwar where he was talking a lot about how he wanted the wayang kulit in the movie because it's sort of like a dying practice. Like a lot of younger people aren't interested in continuing the tradition. So he wanted outside people to know that that's a thing and that it's sweet. But he also wanted younger people to be like, oh, maybe that is something I could do. Or like that seems like cooler than I thought.
And that's really cool.
Yeah, I think it's nice.
if you would like to have a little chuckle at one of those scenes, go back and watch one of the, like when they're showing like the butchering happening. If you watch when they flip around to the other side where the audience is, if you just watch any one of them and watch the ways that they're moving, they're just shuffling back and forth in a line, basically, making no real effort to escape. I part of me is just like, this is probably the extras that were non-actors and they didn't have any real direction. But anyway, because they showed us that a couple of times.
Yeah.
And so I had a couple of chances. I happened to lock on this one woman who in particular was shuffling really slowly. And then she just turned in the other direction and did the exact same thing.
Oh, that's cute.
And nobody got out. But anyway, if you're
did like how he included like the village extras in it. Because didn't they say he filmed in like 5 different locations?
Yes.
Plus it adds like a point of realism to the movie.
Yep.
Like I did not even notice any of that. I thought I was focused on like the shadows of like the machete and the blood spatter. I thought those were really beautiful scenes. So I was not looking at the line dance that those people were doing up front.
Check it out. Yeah, the
movie has been returned.
I also saw it. I noticed it on one of my
It made me laugh.
Well, I'm sad I missed it.
Grandma's brutal. She just walks up. Come on, we gotta go. That's wild.
It's taking too long. Yeah, and then part of me wondered, I'm like, is she the real puppet master? Is she the one who's in charge? But we learn no. But
Well,
at this point, I had written, so the elder is a bad and insane guy, and so is the old lady.
I like the power that she had over them.
Yeah. And then I wrote, curses are dumb.
dude, this is a bad curse too. It infects your entire village for 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, time to move.
And she cast the forgetful one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel bad
Somebody
too.
put that
like
one on
for
me.
well, I feel bad too for like every woman who has gotten pregnant and had their baby die. Like you can't like, I guess you can prevent pregnancy, but in certain circumstances you just can't. Like you get pregnant, you have a baby, and like to know that like to have this baby in you for 9 months, it's like, well, maybe my baby will be born with skin. Like how? And then the babies are not born with skin, not born every single time.
Yeah.
That's just like terrible.
Especially like seeing the lack of medical supplies and services and personnel for each of the birth scenes. It's like, once you know that it is actually so crazy to get to the point where you like potentially have a like fully gestated baby and like you both mate, like that's so crazy alone in like modern day society. There's so many things that can go wrong. You got to that point and then it just doesn't like
didn't work out.
Yeah.
that sucks.
Oh well.
Oops.
Yeah.
Let's try
Oops,
again.
yeah.
Ow,
Well, and honestly-
my skin.
What skin?
I think it's the second birth that we watch. I believe that's the same couple in the end scene, in the very last scene. That
aftercut?
sucks. Yeah. Try again a year later when you think it's fine and it also does not work out. What
in
the
a ridiculous way.
Well, can you imagine how many people were having babies in that first year? Like they would immediately have tried to get pregnant and had a baby within that first year.
Ugh. Terrible.
Yeah, so did like the next curse begin immediately? Or
I'm
like
not
when
sure.
did the next curse begin?
Which one?
Yeah.
When
At the end.
the aftercut when the grandma does her thing?
The ghost that can eat things?
Yeah.
Or whatever? Yeah.
The ghost that rips the fetus from the body and eats it.
Ugh.
But this is supposed to be like, the cliffhanger, like the new curse.
It's like the Carrie ending.
Exactly.
Or like or Nightmare
The Descent.
2 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is Nightmare on Elm Street 2 the one where he turns into the car? Anyway.
I don't remember. They're all a crazy blur to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, to your point, Amanda, we find out from Rati later that she says, if someone made a pact with the devil and a curse is born, it can never be reversed. It can only transform into another curse.
Well, there you go.
So
I totally missed that.
I
Yeah.
spent very little time trying to understand how the curse worked, who placed the curse, how does it affect so-and-so.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, it doesn't really matter.
And then I was trying to get into like the familial relations once. Oh my God, don't even get me going on the flashback scene, Elsa.
Oh, fuck.
We're
a
not
lot.
there yet.
It's a lot.
But once we get into like the family relations, I was like, okay, I'm not going to learn how the curse came to be. I'm going to figure out who's related to who and how what the family tree is.
We'll get to that.
It's funny because now that I've seen it so many times, it seems like somewhat simple. But the first 1 or 2 times I watched this movie, I was like, there's way too many people. They just plop it all down in one spot. Like, it's impossible
It was like
to tell
they
what's
found
going
out
on.
we don't have 8 more days to shoot this movie, so we're doing it all right here.
Well,
That's how it
Well,
felt.
Allison, us three were having that same experience that you
now,
had.
yeah. Their production was messed up because the director got dengue fever the first day.
I saw that.
And then was like nearly died and was in the hospital for 8 days. That's not a good start to your movie.
No, for sure.
Maya runs into Rati, who takes her home to tell her all about this cursed village. Those 2 men from earlier show up at Rati's house and tell her that Dini was murdered. Rati tries to help Maya escape into the woods, but the man who gave Maya and Dini a ride previously is killed, so she doesn't have a ride out of here. And in in the woods, 3 little ghost girls
LOL.
reveal the truth to Maya. Ki Saptari is her true father. He had an affair with her mom. His mother, the grandma, cursed Ki Saptari to forget about the affair and for the baby to die. But Maya lived. She just was born with no skin. Ki Danawangso abducted 3 girls from the village and sacrificed them to cure Maya through black magic. He made puppets from the girls' skin and buried the rest of them underneath the floor of his home. But the ghost girls continued to haunt Rahayu until Ki Danawangso placed a blessing inside of her leg, which is the paper from the beginning of the movie. Ki Sapchidi killed everybody at the Wayang, and he killed his brother Ki Danawangso. As one of the men said, blood for blood. Wow, that's a lot.
I had to rewind it and watch it a couple times. I was really irritated. I was glad to have all the backstory. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, that's the story. I did not want it brought to me in a flashback. That was just it was a cheap way out.
I agree.
Which I get in movies. You want a vessel to give information to your viewers, but I wish it would have been like where there was a confrontation with like maybe one of the servants who used to live in the house that the puppet master lived in, or just somebody else where there was a confrontation where there could have been, I don't know. I just did not want to. It was way too much history in a flashback, like in the middle of the woods. Then she just like stands up having all this information and goes on to the next. I don't know. Ugh.
Yeah, cramming all of this story into a flashback scene really sucks.
It was like the whole movie.
Like,
Let's put
it was
45 minutes of the movie in a flashback.
And like it was so detailed that it also made me laugh that the ghost just like put its little head on her. Be like, here, come inside my head. I'm going to tell you a story. That made me laugh a little bit.
And then her little, the woman's head is just, Maya's head's just going back and forth. I'm like, you don't look possessed right now.
Yeah. Before all that, I don't remember what the specific context is that this was happening, but like it's like the main character was threatening, if you kill me, somebody said, if you kill me, I'll come back and haunt you as a ghost, and they like were visibly scared by that. There's something very funny to me about people being scared of being haunted or being scared of ghosts, and it's taken super seriously in this movie.
You might feel differently if you live in a haunted village, though.
I don't. Yeah. Well, yeah.
I also watched a little video on Indonesian ghosts today.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And, you know, Asian ghosts are so much scarier than like Western, like I'll put a sheet over my body and clank some chains.
Right.
I'm a Victorian lady.
Yeah, exactly. Usually a Victorian lady.
Would you like some tea? But so that's why I was surprised that this kind of ghost, they're ethereal. They're trying to also help you understand.
They're trying to tell a story.
They're right. They're storytellers.
Yeah.
And they just want all of their body parts to be together, which sounds so Western to me. I mean, I could be wrong. But so that was kind of surprising that the director chose this kind of Western ghost. And, the ghost is kind of helpful. Those 3 little girls, they're not doing anything bad through the whole movie. The only thing they do is
they just kind of hang out.
Vulcan mind meld.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to resort to name calling, but this is a little bit of lazy storytelling. And I wish I could think of a better way to reveal this information.
Exactly.
I agree.
And after I watched the movie, I immediately went to try to read a lot of reviews and see what people thought. And it does feel like most of the consensus, even the really positive reviews, specifically stated that flashback scene was kind of
It just cheapens it. One thing that I will say that this flashback scene, so with the information you were just sharing about the ghost, Christopher, those on the bus, Maya sees those ghosts immediately. She sees the three girls. So they already, I don't want to say they have a connection, but they're already connected. And then you can see, you don't know what is roaming around the house. It looks like little ghost children. You see ghosts multiple times at the beginning. So when the ghosts come back to her, maybe the ghost knew that they knew who she was as soon as they saw her, they knew who she was, and that she would listen to them and be the one who would be able to ultimately get their, to end the curse and to get their skin buried with their bones so they could be at peace and be gone. So I do like that. One thing the flashback does give is the ghost an opportunity to connect with Maya again and for Maya to help them. I still think there would have been, and again, I'm not writing screenplays over here, but if there was a way for Maya to get all the family history information, but also have a way to have that ghost connection where she can still help, I think she's the right person to save those ghosts or to set their souls free or whatever. I just wish it would have been a separate thing because we get way too much information in those 4 minutes or whatever.
Yes. The thing I like least about the flashback is 20 minutes later, there's another flashback, and they're like, actually, part of this is different. It's why? Why? Why did you choose to trick me for 15 more minutes?
He's having a goof.
It's a lot, yeah. And it is interesting because the ghosts actually have almost nothing to do with the initial curse. The curse happens, and then making the ghosts is a response to that.
Yeah.
But you find out the whole story and then they change the story 15 minutes later. I think it's confusing.
Yeah.
I think it's really confusing and way too much information to drop in one moment.
Yeah. I feel like I still have clarifying questions about some of the shit that they show. I have one that I wrote down, which, so the skin briefcase thing was in the room with them all along? Because they show that at one point, the cabinet thing and the, because they're downstairs.
Yeah.
The kid bones are downstairs. And they show him go into the room and open this little cabinet with the suitcase, which had the, anyway.
Where the puppets were in there, weren't they?
Yeah. And they were so it's their skin was there the whole time? That's close enough. You're more or less buried with your skin.
And I know we're not at there yet, but later when her and the other girl, Maya and the pregnant girl who was married to the...
Ratzi.
Yeah. They were the ones who were digging up the bones. When they dig up in the basement and they find the bones, why don't they just dump the skin? And why do they have to pull out all the bones, put the bones in a box, the box with the puppet skins, and then bury that? Why can't they just throw the puppet skins in the hole with the bones? Why do they have to pull out all the hands and the skulls?
I was so worried they're going to miss one little tarsal bone.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
And it's
fuck this whole thing up.
Yeah, that's right.
Then they have everything all lined up in the box perfectly. I'm hang on, one of those horrible guys upstairs is going to come down and interrupt you all. You're going to get buried in the hole.
Yeah. How'd you like that?
I was just worried for them.
You like that?
Then it'll be a different curse that they'll explain in another weird scene.
2 years later.
All three girls and Ki Saptadi are all actors in other Joko Anwar movies. He uses a lot of the same folks over and over. And I had seen Satan's Slaves first, I think. Anyway, the girl that plays Rati is the bad guy in that movie, so I didn't trust her the first time I watched this. And
I wasn't sure I could trust her when I met her first.
Yeah. I like her weird ass creepy smile when she says the thing about like, you can't stop the curse. You can only make a new one. And she says, that's why I don't believe in killing you, Rahayu. It won't lift the curse. When she like reveals like, oh, I know who you are and I'm not going to kill you.
That was a great scene.
That was cool.
That was a really good scene.
And then immediately Maya sees that she accidentally got Rati's husband killed at the beginning of the movie. Mm-hmm. That sucks.
Maya did not. He got himself killed because he was trying to kill her.
That is true. That's very true.
Yeah. Was not Maya's fault. Oh, well, apologies. You tried to murder me. Sorry you got killed in the meanwhile. No.
That's kind of the thing about this movie is like none of it is Maya's fault. Full stop. Mm-hmm. She didn't ask to be born or be a baby with no skin. But also like it is kind of her fault. You know what I mean? Like it's not her fault personally, but like this whole thing is coming from
she's there. Her. She's poking the bear.
So she got her skin through black magic?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. From the 3 dead girls.
God, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild? Yeah.
It's dumb.
So, well, I mean, was there more black magic after killing the 3 girls and making them into puppet skins?
I feel like if you're doing a little bit of black magic, there's probably black magic happening every day.
Well, the first black magic is to make it so that Maya doesn't have skin at all because of the affair.
Yep.
Right. And then make him forget.
Yep. Mm-hmm. More.
And then
Maya gets skin back.
Did the skin showing up on Maya happen as a natural result of killing the 3 girls? Or was that another deal with the devil?
It was part of the magic.
Another deal, yeah. You can see it starting to grow back in a couple, like very brief shots.
Yep. Lot of black magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, I do like watching the grandma do her black magic thing, and then she comes out of the house. She's like, "We got the wrong girl! Fuck you guys, stupid!"
Well,
she's the kingpin.
Well, I will say that in one of the scenes where she's like somewhere and she's dancing around and doing like a magic thing, I didn't even think that was the grandma. I thought it was like the quote unquote aunt person who took Maya away. I thought that was the person. I thought in my mind when I first saw her doing the swirling black magic thing, I didn't think it was the grandma. I thought she was somehow involved with the quote-unquote aunt who took Maya away or saved her. Mm-hmm. And then the one boy who was allowed to live with no skin who lived in the woods. I had this little half thought in my head that all of that was related. It wasn't inconsequential to everything else, but in my mind, I was still trying to figure out who was who. Mm-hmm. And the way the lighting was or the way she was standing, she didn't look like the same person.
I liked the skinless guy. As much as you can like something.
Oh, that was a weird little half a scene.
I liked him.
But what was that scene for?
Just to show you a guy.
No skin.
Doesn't have any skin.
Well, maybe that showed Rati's empathy and Rati's involvement. Okay. Maybe that would be like reassuring to Maya, who is trying to still put some trust in Rati. I don't know.
Yeah. Because you would just die so fast with those skin.
It is not possible to live
he's
without.
Just like,
I mean, you're like, as a newborn, you're just dead.
And she understands that means food, please.
Right.
I'm hungry. I'm thirsty.
Why aren't you feeding him? What's wrong with you? Yeah. No, but I like that guy. I think I just said, hell yeah.
Well, there's very few scenes where you see like babies or people with no skin, so it is cool to get another scene. You know, my favorite, of course, is the jump scare later.
I think it's so funny when Maya gets in the car the first time to leave, and the ghost girl's in the passenger seat just rips her skin.
I love that so much.
Yes.
That's so silly.
Yeah. I love that. I think the effects look weird, but I just think that was cool.
Yeah.
There's like a little noise like a or like and then like she sits up and
Zip.
then
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sad the cab guy died. He was just doing his best.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, it's pretty convenient that she's got her phone, Maya. She's panicking, freaking out, trying to get a hold of her friend. And then, like, he calls and he's like, "Hey, I'm coming to get you. I got the police." And I'm
one
like,
guy.
okay. So him and the motorbike police roll in, and I'm like, well, that's not going to go well.
Yeah.
As the mob of villagers approaches.
With torches.
I wanted Maya, when she was hiding in the woods and saw that, I wanted her to hop on that bike and just drive away, and that's her big getaway. Is on that little bike in the woods, like Miss Piggy style, you know? Great Muppet Caper.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. But that would have been too easy.
Plus, then all those girls would still be skinless.
Is that what you want?
Yeah, Amanda.
I mean,
Maybe.
Yeah. After seeing the end of this movie, it's kind of hard to argue that it's better now.
so is that grandma going to eat every baby that's born? Is that what I'm supposed to believe?
Maybe. It reminds me of, is it Neptune or Jupiter
Yeah.
eating his son?
Yeah.
So there, of all these Indonesian ghosts that I saw this video about, so many of them are about pregnancy, rape,
Menstruation.
menstruation. Boy, there's a lot going on there. Even eating fetuses. Then there's one little pig ghost that just takes your money. So
That's who I want to be in the next life.
I was kind of
Just a little
sad that
piggy that gets your money.
that little pig didn't show up in this movie.
Maybe the next one.
All right. The grandmother confronts Maya at the family home and kidnaps her, intending to kill her. But Maya reveals the truth to Ki Saptari, who kills himself. Then the grandma kills herself too, and Maya escapes a la Texas Chainsaw Massacre. 1 year later, one of the village women is pregnant again, but she is attacked by the ghost of the grandma who eats her baby alive.
Roll credits.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. These last two scenes, they did not do the movie a service, I don't think. Like that scene with the people killing themselves and like all the weird exposition that's happening in there. I don't know. The last 10, 15 minutes of this movie like robbed it of any power for me. And I thought that ending thing was so stupid. And this is where the wheels fell off for me big time, right at the end of this movie.
Yeah, and there's that when she's running out of the woods, you can see the baby being born healthy and them like, cuddling it. And then you see her running through the woods. They're happening concurrently. And then Ode to Joy is playing.
Oh my God. Yes.
And I'm just like, okay, I get what we're trying to do here, but that didn't work for me.
I noticed that too. Yeah,
Didn't quite work for me.
It's very funny to me.
I'm just like, even in what was the last movie we talked about for this podcast?
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Same thing where they're on the ship with
Amazing Grace.
Amazing Grace.
Yes.
I'm like, what's happening? I guess those are maybe free songs. So
that is probably true. Yeah, I bet that's exactly why.
And I love Ode to Joy. Whenever it's in a movie, I'm just like, I just feel it so strong. And here I'm just like, this woman is panicked and almost died and she's running. And then you've got that, the flip side of the coin of a beautiful, the first baby being born with skin in 20 years. So you've got these two, I guess they're both joyous moments, which, I don't know about it, but it was free.
What do you all think about the tendency in horror movies to always revert back to the horror at the end? The heroine finally kills the monster, finally kills the slasher, and there's very, very often, the resurrection of the curse or the slasher or the horror at the end. I know this is such a common thing. I mean, it's so common, it's almost a throwaway in a way. You could say it's paying tribute to, 100 other movies, but at that point, it's not really. It's not paying tribute. Yeah. It's just like repeating.
Yeah.
Or something. I'm not sure.
No, it becomes a thing where you can say, it has the stupid fake out ending.
Yes.
Right.
And because it's like it's been done powerfully before, doesn't mean that you need to do it again.
It's not like you get to the end of a rom-com and they decide
They fall in love even more.
Yeah. No, at the end of a rom-com, I want a side scene where the guy's in bed with another woman.
Right.
He loves
I'm
her
like,
just
boom.
as much.
Well, I mean, there is a certain sense of, as a moviegoer, there's a sense of watching a movie, it wraps up, the final girl killed the bad guy. Yay, things are great. But it's a freaking horror movie. I said freaking. It's a freaking horror movie. Why do you want to feel good and happy? Like, oh, happy ending at the end. And then when like the monster rolls up, you're like, yeah, because they got to do part 2 and part 3 and part 4, depending on if it's a cheap franchise or a good franchise. But even in like a movie like this, it might be like a one-off. It's for me. Here, it's another cheap shot. I didn't need that. But also it goes to signal, it ties back into that Indonesian folklore of like having the magic and the spell and this curse. Like Allison reminded us that the girls that said the curse is not over, it comes back in another form. So there is that, okay, there's no sense of closure. So then as a moviegoer who's at home on their couch, when you're done watching the movie and you're going to bed, you're like, yeah, ghost and the girl, and you're still thinking about it. What else could be? It's to be continued. It's the ... on your phone.
I wonder if all the movies we have watched for the podcast, how many have had a clean ending? So Invasion of the Body Snatchers has a little shock ending, right?
Yep.
Descent has a shock ending where you think you've gotten away and you haven't.
Alien has a big one.
Yep.
Silence of the Lambs has one, sort of.
It's kind of funny. This is a real
Don't
staple.
Look Now.
Don't Look Now. The entire ending is like, oh.
Right.
The Prowler. Does the Prowler do that? Probably. Phantasm.
Gun to my head. I don't remember how the Prowler ends.
Jaws. Well, it's hard.
Yeah.
A New Nightmare. He ain't gone.
Wait, Jaws has a clean ending.
Jaws does have a clean ending. They're just swimming.
Right.
Swimming back.
That's right.
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah.
Why is Jaws the best movie? Thinking about that ending where they blow the shark up, it's all done.
Let's dive into Jaws. Oh. I love talking about Jaws.
Yeah. I mean, the folklore, that's when Jaws comes back as a ghost.
Well, he does come back.
Anyways, we
3 more
digress.
times.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But no, Christopher, that is a good point, and it is a larger conversation, and it's a lot. Allison, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think my problem with it is it's never done well for the most part. Like, the only one I can really think of where I really enjoyed that type of ending is The Ring, when Aiden says something to his aunt, and you're like, oh shit, this is not what I thought was going on. Other than that, it's like, yeah. I feel like at the end they're like, heh.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
That's usually how those feel. And this one definitely felt like when they do it in Final Destination where they're like, ha, but
yeah.
And then they kill him.
And I feel like if there's a book adaptation, they add it more in the movies. Like the books, it doesn't come across the same way in a book as it does in a movie, especially if it's horror and it's a jump scare or something unexpected or dark.
I will say also, I kind of want to feel bad at the end of a horror movie. I don't really want it like cleanly wrapped up.
I like that not rosy feeling of still feeling disturbed.
Yep.
I came here to feel bad.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. I love it when a movie leans into feeling bad, but this one didn't make me feel bad.
No, I feel like
grandma.
Funny. It was this time cut, please.
If they treated this movie like the Conjuring universe and made like 16 of them, there'd be a Hungry Grandma series. They might still. Oh, if you're listening to this filmmaker, I forget your name already. I apologize. Hungry Grandma, I'll sell you the rights for $100.
Are you talking about the Conjuring universe?
No, I'm talking about if they
Joko
turn.
Anwar?
Sorry, I'm making some dumb leaps right now.
Dear James Wan, are you writing a letter to James Wan or Joko Anwar?
To Joko Anwar, that he should make a Hungry Grandma movie based on the lady we see at the end.
Don't tempt him.
I do think that her performance is the best performance in the.
She's
movie.
awesome.
I think she's really cool.
Yeah.
Especially when she's doing that like motion, like dance, black magic shit.
I'd be scared of her if I lived in the village.
Yeah.
Well, that's why when she first answered the door, like, and Maya and Danae are like, "Oh, is the puppet master home?" And she's like, "He's not home. Call back later." And then I'm like, "Wait a minute, is she the puppet master?" And then later on, something else happened. I was like, "Oh, when she came in and murdered Danae with that quick slice of the throat." Again, I thought, because she seemed in charge. But if you think about it, if you have like a very strong male character, he still can be controlled by his mother in a lot of these movies and horror tropes. And I got that from this with their relationship.
Yeah, I think once I had time to think about this movie, that's kind of what I like most about this story is once you know the ending, watching it again and realizing, oh, she knows why this happened the whole time. And she's been like tricking this entire village of people, including her son, who she seems to love, but she'll also like stroke his butt. I don't know what all of that was about. But you know what I mean? Like she is like stringing Deanie up and cutting her throat. She knows that that's not going to fix this. But she does it anyway. Like, just so many interesting choices on that character's part. And 20 years is a long time to be fooling every single person that you know and interact with every single day. I also like her face when Kisafdidi kills himself. Like,
Yeah.
she's like heartbroken. It's like, oh, wow, the super intimidating lady also like feels bad about this. Interesting.
Yeah. It's interesting. I did like that scene where she and the son both kill themselves, but it's like a knife to the throat. That's like how everybody dies, is a knife to the throat. And most of these movies, or most of the scenes in this one, you either have like a baby or a person with no skin, or someone's getting their throat sliced. Those are like your blood. Those are your horror moments. The gore and Impetigore.
Something about somebody cutting their own throat and still screaming will always make me laugh, though.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
Yeah.
And she dies really peacefully after cutting her own throat. She like just goes like,
and she like lays down.
Yeah, she's like hugging her son.
You can tell that she wasn't quite comfortable either, because she lays down really softly and then she like moves forward a little bit.
I thought that Indonesia was a heavily religious country, and I don't know, it may still be, but it seemed a lot more mixed and secular than I thought.
I don't know for sure. I think parts of it are very religious. Satan's Slave Communion, it's like all Muslim people, which I think is super interesting because you don't really see Muslim people in horror movies. And like when people, like, spoiler, die in that movie, the rites are different. Like the way that they, like the way that they treat dead people is different. I just find that like very interesting. But the thing that's weird about Indonesia is it's actually like 600 different cultures and languages. So like I think it's just so varied because it's a bunch of islands.
I also wonder if there, what else is going on with language in this movie, because they talk about, at one point, I think Deanie says, just say it in Javanese if you don't know the Arabic, or maybe it's the other way around.
Yeah. Do you think God just knows Arabic?
That was
Yeah.
right. So I
thought that was cool.
Yeah, there, and the comment about Russian earlier, and I don't know. I think there were other things in there that I probably missed. Just because I don't know Indonesian culture whatsoever, and I'm always looking for that little pig stealing that money.
Yeah. If you've learned anything from this podcast today, please watch Satan's Slave Communion. It's real good.
Yeah, well, I feel like we've already like totally spoiled this movie, but I feel like this is for people who are into like horror folklore movies where there are the black magic and spells, like The Witch or like Midsummer or those kinds of movies. I can see why people would have already seen this or knew about this movie, because I think it falls into that category. Again, it's just not the subgenre of horror that I'm drawn to. But once, like for this, I had to watch it, and it's cool to be forced to look at a movie in a different way and learn. Well, for this movie here, you're learning not just about different cultures, different language, but also the history and how their magic or their deep folklore of the stories that they share. And here I really, really enjoyed like the puppetry part of it. I think that was a neat thing to learn.
Yeah, I am into this genre. As I've said many times, I love Asian horror, but also like folklore. folklore that's not American based. But I also really like The Wailing, which is a South Korean folklore based horror movie. Super good. And a movie from Thailand called The Medium.
I've heard of both of those.
They're both really good.
I hear The Wailing's great.
Yes. Highly recommend both of them. It's either the same director or writer between the two of them. And even if this movie was not like for you, I would definitely check out those other two. And Satan's Slave Communion.
Should we, Allison?
Just getting
What's
kickbacks
this
for
movie?
this.
Speak of?
I'm dying to talk about this movie with anybody else on the planet. So please, anybody listening, join me. All right. Do we have any last thoughts, or do we want to go right to rating it?
I think we're ready to roll.
I'll go first. I do think there were several elements of this movie that I enjoyed, that I liked. I had no qualms with the sound. I liked a lot of the shots. Nothing stood out to me as like, ooh, why did they do that? I thought it was effective. Again, I've spoken to most of the things I liked about the movie or didn't like about the movie. I didn't think it was particularly scary. For me, the biggest scares were just like women in peril and bad things about to happen to them. I'll give it a 2 out of 5 for scare, which is higher than I normally give things, but it did have some darkness and there was some suspense and scary elements, and there wasn't a lot of gore to be afraid of. I liked the butchering puppet show scene. That was pretty cool with that machete wailing. So 2 out of 5 for scare-o-meter, and then overall, I'll be generous and give it a 4 out of 10. I don't have any...
Generous?
Hello.
That's brutal.
4 out of 10, 2 out of 5 is high in my book. Again, I don't use a 10-point scale in case anybody did not know that I hate a 10-point scale. But 4 out of 10 sounds brutal, but 2 out of 5 sounds generous in my... So for me, that's generous. 2 out of 5.
I was really happy that this movie took place someplace that wasn't in the U.S. It was great to get another view of things. We all talked about how much we appreciated the opening shots. This is hearing about what the filmmaker went through to make this reminded me of Fitzcarraldo. This is almost like the Fitzcarraldo of horror movies in a way, without the giant boat. I am going to give this a 7.5 out of 10. So I did enjoy it. I had to take a little study break in the middle. That's okay. And I'm
not related to this movie.
Not related, right. And I'm going to give it 2 out of 5 on the scare-o-meter.
For me, on the scare meter, it's a 1 out of 5. I don't think that curses are scary. I think they're silly, and they're not real. And I realize as I say that, like, most of the shit that we see in horror movies is not real. There's something about curses that's hokey to me. I just can't buy it, and I can't be scared by it. And seeing people on screen be scared of it is just mostly funny to me. So it's not a scary movie. Overall, this is not my kind of horror movie. I can look past stuff like budget limitations, filming limitations, effects, and all that. Like, I actually kind of liked the way that this movie looked. I thought that the set pieces were mostly pretty good from a production standpoint. I was impressed with it, considering what I know about it. But the story and the elements of the curse are kind of convoluted and don't really add up to something compelling or scary to me. Really, I giggled at a lot of stuff in it too. And sometimes I don't know. It's stuff that wasn't supposed to be funny, which, is not what I'm looking for in a horror movie, generally speaking.
Sometimes those moments are fun, though, when you're laughing when you're not supposed to.
Sometimes, but there were just like a few too many for me. And again, I say this affectionately to the filmmaker, that don't do a flashback scene like that. That's that long. That literally took it down a full number for me to a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I wonder too if
generous 5.
I wonder if some of the fault lines in this story that we all seem to be having, I wonder if part of it is because of the length of time it took to have this movie on the shelf or in thought. Like maybe they kept going back to it, or that he wanted to change some elements. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to find out, but I was just, yeah.
Just a
yeah,
thought.
Yeah, but it's interesting, though, because the story is like one of the main things that are the lag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, obviously, I like this movie. I chose it. I think the actors are good. I think it looks beautiful. I think the story is good, but I think the way the story is displayed on screen is not the director's best. This is not my favorite movie by this guy. If you've listened this far, you know what my favorite movie by this guy is.
Say the name again.
Satan's Little Helpers, right?
First Communion. Satan's First Communion. Sorry.
You're good. Yeah, I think there are a lot of elements that really work for me. Some of them don't. For these reasons, I will give it a 8 out of 10. I like this movie. And a 1 out of 5. I don't think this movie is very scary. I think his other movies are way scarier. And both Satan's Slaves have more of a Conjuring vibe. Like, they look like Conjuring movies to me.
Okay. And I'm a big fan of not all of the Conjuring universe, but a good chunk of the Conjuring universe. I'm a fan of James Wan and his storytelling.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think the Satan's Slaves movies are super interesting. The first Satan's Slave is actually a remake of a beloved 70s or 80s movie in Indonesia. It's like a loose remake, and then Satan's Slave Communion is like his own thing, like his own original idea.
Interesting.
Same with he didn't direct it, but he wrote Queen of Black Magic, which is a remake of another beloved classic Indonesian horror movie. I don't know. I think Joko Anwar is really cool. I think his movies are good. I think his ideas are good. And I wish someone would give this man a budget. Because I think if he had more resources and access to more things, he would be unstoppable.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I did like his Netflix series, which is labeled as horror, but is every genre put together. And if you're interested, I'll spoil it for you 3 after this
Is
podcast.
that Nightmares and Daydreams?
Yep.
Okay. I haven't
It's
opened it up.
That's cool.
anthology. It's not really similar to Twilight Zone, but it's similar vibes. And they did give that man a budget, and it showed.
Really?
It's
Cool.
really visually interesting. And if you're interested, I'll spoil it for you guys after this. But anyway, I like this guy. I think he's really talented, and I think this movie is all right. I think it's good, but it's not his best. If you like what you heard today and you want to let us know, you can email us at whatscaresus@aadl.org. Thanks for joining us. This has been What Scares Us.